Hello, everybody. I want to thank you all for joining. My name is Pat Bigley from Splan. We're about 2 minutes after 10, and we're going to go ahead and get started talking about Splan Unified Identity and Badging Module. So first of all, let's just talk about Splan for a minute. Splan is a company that's been in business about 10 years. We have customers all over the world. We've got many Fortune 500 companies. We've also got smaller customers as well. It is an enterprise solution, as you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, many different modules that we have. We started with visitor management, and a lot of people know us as visitor management, but since that time, we've added things like unified identity and badging, secure insights, integration with IAM solutions. We've also got contractors and deliveries. So it's basically a very broad enterprise solution. We've got many different kinds of customers, and it is a very configurable solution because there are different types of customers, whether they're pharmaceutical, hospitals, whether they are technology, whether they're manufacturing, schools. They have different requirements, but the main thing is they're really all on the same version of the software. We don't go into customers and write code for special use cases. Basically, it's a very, very configurable solution. So regarding today's webinar, we're going to talk about unified badging. And I think the things you need to ask, questions consider within your own company. When somebody joins your company, how long does it take them to get a badge? And what's the cost? If they're waiting around, waiting to get started working with an employee or contractor or other, what is the cost of your company for that delay? When somebody changes jobs, do unneeded access levels remain on their badge? We call that access creep. You've got somebody who's been with a company 10 years, and now they have 100 access levels, but they really only need 3. So are you managing the access levels as they change jobs as well? And then, of course, you get into approvals, right? When you're granting access to different people, a lot of times you may need approvals for different access levels. For example, to get into a server room, maybe one person is allowed to grant that approval, or maybe a team is allowed to grant that approval. And are the right people approving access? So these are the things you need to consider, right? Also, when somebody leaves the company, this is really the big security issue. Somebody leaves a company, if they are terminated for cause, how quickly are you terminating that badge? Are you deactivating that badge? Are they walking out the door with an active badge that they can come back and create havoc? The thing is, you need to deactivate that badge immediately. And also, do you know how many badges are outstanding? For example, does your company have 1,000 employees, but there's 2,000 badges outstanding? So these are the questions really to ask internally when you're considering badging solutions. So the challenges that we talk about are really come down to 3 things: time, money, and security, right? If an employee has to wait or a contractor has to wait in line, you're wasting a lot of time and you're wasting money. And you're not only that, but you're creating frustration. You want employees that join the company to be very happy and feel like, hey, this is a great company, a modern company. You don't want them frustrated, right? If they lose their badge, right? Somebody loses a badge, how do you issue a new temporary badge? And what happens to the permanent badge? Let's say they lost it out in the parking lot. Is that permanent badge still active? And when you grant them a temporary badge, do you have to go in and look up everything and find out what access levels they should have on their badge? These are some of the things that we look at and we address, right? Also, organizations sometimes do have multiple badge types. We were talking to a company the other day. They've got both fobs and they've got prox cards. Other people are looking at QR codes and prox cards. Other people have mobile credential. Splan can address all different kinds of badging badge types, right? And so basically, we're looking at employees, we're looking at contractors, and we're looking at the overall organization and addressing these challenges, right, of time, money, and security and compliance. Let's talk about the life cycle and access management. When somebody joins a company, for example, and this is how Splan works. To give you the process, somebody joins a company. Their record is entered either into the HR system, or maybe you have a ticketing system that they're entered into. Splan can take a feed from that system, basically takes a feed And then when it goes to the manager and the manager says, okay, I've just hired this person, and based on their role within the company, I need to issue these 5 access levels. Well, instead of having to pick up a phone, call people, or send emails, look for approvals, things like that, Splan automatically notifies the people that can grant those approvals. The person who can grant the approvals gets a dashboard. They can see on their dashboard that this new hire, and you can include notes in there, needs these 5 approvals. When they get that dashboard, they basically can say, okay, I own this one, I can approve this one. A different person may be approving a different one. A team may be approving these things. So it goes through the approval process. When all the access levels are approved, then that employee is notified. You have your badges ready. Now, depending on the badge type, they could have different areas to pick it up. They could go to a badging station, they could go to a kiosk, or it could be a mobile credential. The same thing happens when you've got a job change. Somebody is changing jobs, and we're going to not only grant access, but maybe we want to remove some access also, so we don't get that access continuing to add that they no longer need. So it's the same process, goes through that approval process. The thing is that what we're doing is we're automatically notifying people. Everything is handled within the system. There's no phone calls, there's no emails, there's nobody. You can have delegates, you can have backups. So let's say one approver is going to be out of the office. Maybe they're on vacation for a week. Well, they can have a backup. That backup can then approve those access levels, whether it's a new hire or a job change. Let's talk about termination. There could be voluntary termination, in which case point you're going to put in the system a date when you want that badge deactivated, because that's the date the person is leaving. You can also have involuntary termination or termination for cause. Termination for cause, so you want that badge deactivated immediately. You don't want that employee walking out the door with an active badge. They can have the badge, but you don't want it to be active. So you've got these different scenarios with the life cycle of an employee: hiring, job change, termination, and then also finally you've got temporary badges, right? Somebody forgets their badge. What do you have to do when it comes to a temporary badge? What Splan does is basically the person goes into the office and says, hey, I forgot my badge. Okay, they check in with the system, and the system looks up in the access control, what are the access levels this person has. And when Splan sees that, then those are the access levels that are assigned to their badge. At the same time, Splan can deactivate that permanent badge. So that permanent badge that might be laying out in the parking lot on somebody's dresser, maybe they handed it to somebody, is deactivated while that temporary badge is active, because what you don't want is you don't want those 2 badges active at the same time. So of course, Splan kind of communicates all of this and works through the workflow and automates this process. Now, Secure Insights is a very, very interesting module for Splan as well. What Secure Insights gives you the capability to do is understand every transaction that happens at a badge reader. With this is really important when you start talking about mustering. When you feed into mustering, you've got, the badge readers are processing transactions, right? Well, we want to know everybody who's on site, and those transactions are going to fit into mustering. So Splan offers a very completely integrated enterprise solution. And today we're just really talking about that physical identity and access management. As you can see from this slide, it is integrated across different things like visitors and desk booking and tenant management, deliveries, parking systems, and things like that. As I said, Splan does fit into the technical landscape as well. Taking those feeds from the API or HR feed or a ticketing system, right? Also understanding and making sure that people are authenticated through Active Directory or LDAP. We also integrate with IAM solutions like SailPoint. Okay, so with SailPoint, for example, they're handling logical access. We're handling the physical access. We are also reaching out and communicating with PAC systems, SIM tools, and other systems as well within the Splan security platform. Splan has an open API, can communicate with many, many different systems. I'll talk about those in just a minute. But we fit into not only a process landscape, right? And automate processes. As I said earlier, no emails, no phone calls, basically everything, all transactions within Splan. When somebody approves something, clicks a button to approve an access level, the employee and manager are immediately notified by that. We fit into the process landscape, but we also fit into a technical landscape as well. As I said before, many integrations, many seamless integrations. We have over 20 plus integrations with access control. We've got integrations with mobile credential. So for Blue Diamond, HID, Wavelengths, also OpenPath, who has their own mobile credential. We've got an integration with OpenPath as well, as you can see here, and then we integrate with their mobile credential. IAM systems, we integrate with SailPoint, and then also we integrate with cloud systems, emergency notification systems. Now, we do have our own emergency notification system. So as part of our main module, visitor management, you can send out an emergency notification to people that are on site if you do have an emergency. That also ties into our mustering module as well. But we do integrate with others because some people do have Everbridge. In that case, what we are doing is we're sending, when people check in or badge in, we're sending that information over to Everbridge. And when they check out, we're removing that information for Everbridge, so Everbridge can always reach out and send out an emergency notification if you want to use Everbridge. But again, we have our own emergency notification and mustering modules as well. We also integrate with healthcare systems are an interesting market because they've got Epic, they've got patient record systems, electronic health record systems, so like Epic and Cerner. And they use HL7 as a protocol to integrate with those systems. So we integrate with those systems as well. And then Wi-Fi, interestingly enough, if you come into the visitor comes in, and let's say they want Wi-Fi access, and they let people know ahead of time, hey, I'm going to need Wi-Fi access. And this is Wi-Fi where you have a username and password. If it's just an open Wi-Fi, and you write the password on the back of a card or a whiteboard, you don't need our integration with Wi-Fi system. You're just basically, they're just going to sign on. But if you've got a closed Wi-Fi system where you need a username and password, you don't really need to call the IT team and say, hey, we need to grant Wi-Fi access to this person. Can you set up a username and password and communicate to them? Basically, we can do that. Splan can do that with the integration with Wi-Fi systems. So we integrate with a number of different systems. There's other integrations as well that we've done for people. We have an open API, application programming interface, which allows us to build connectors. As long as that other system has an API, we can generally build a connector to it in 2 to 4 weeks. So again, we integrate with many different systems. I know NASA, for example, they've got us integrated with many different systems that they use. And then other people, they're always asking us to integrate with different systems as well. Talk about mobile credentialing for just a moment. The way it works is when somebody checks in, or when you issue a badge to somebody, basically we go through an approval process, right? If it needs approval, so it goes through that approval process. Then we integrate with the different mobile credential systems such as Blue Diamond, Wavelengths, OpenPath, HID. We also then integrate with the access control system. Then what we do is we issue that mobile credential, we activate that mobile credential, and then people can use their phone at mobile credential readers to check in or to go through a door, not to check in, but access that door, that access level. So again, we've got a complete integration with mobile credential. It's just one of the badge types, as I mentioned earlier. Some people have QR codes. Some people have, QR codes and prox cards. Some people have QR codes, prox cards, and and fobs, and also mobile credential. So we work with all these different badging types as well. That's the one thing about Splan is we're very much of a configurable solution and an open solution able to work with many different systems. We're not a closed architecture. We're basically, we have an open API, which allows us to communicate with different systems as long as we're also putting in security. All data is encrypted. And also we've got, for example, like with the healthcare HL7 interface, because patient records are very private. We respect privacy. We've got GDPR compliance. We also are ISO certified, and we've passed the SOC 2 audit. So again, when you're thinking about privacy, security, and things like that, very important. Splan has gone through many different security reviews by different customers, our customers all over the world. And then also, we've passed certain audits and also have certain certifications as well. Different ways to get a badge, right? If it is a Prox card, for example, you can check in with a badging station. You can also get a Prox card from that large kiosk on the left that you see, the full feature kiosk. That will actually issue a Prox card. If it's a mobile credential, you can see the person standing there with their phone receiving a mobile credential, or if it's a QR code credential and that's what you're using for readers, you can go up to another kiosk which will actually print a badge with a QR code on it. So again, there's different ways to get your credentials, whether they are whatever type of credential they are. We've got different ways to support it with cameras, enrollment readers, printers. Basically, this kiosk over here has the auto badge dispenser, so you can have an unmanned area where somebody can go in and get a permanent badge or a temporary badge. Again, let's say somebody lost their badge and all they need is a temporary badge. They could do that right from this kiosk. You don't have to tie up a badging station or badging office anymore to get a temporary badge if you want to use a kiosk. Also the mobile app, using your mobile phone to get that. Basically, Splan has the capability to meet many requirements in the unified badging. New hire badges, and everything in the system is policy based, right? You set up policies, you have roles, you have people that are allowed to do certain things, people are not allowed to do so, all about permissions, policies, rules within the system. There's a rules engine also. If this situation, then that. If this occurs, then we do that. That type of thing with rules, right? You can always get information online, right? Views, consolidated views of badges and things like that. We do the temp badges, we do contractor badges. Very important when contractors come on site, as we talked about earlier on in the very beginning of the webinar. You're paying contractors. Contractors show up, and if they're waiting for a badge and they're collecting a payment while they're waiting, that's a waste of money. So, and also you want to make sure that the contractors have the right badges that are approved by the right people. So you don't want to just give them carte blanche to your entire organization and every access level. You want to make sure that the access levels that they receive are the correct ones. We also have mobile credentials. We've got approval workflows, right? In other words, different workflows for different scenarios and different approvals that you set up ahead of time. And then everything is handled really with notifications. You don't have to pick up the phone. You don't have to send an email. You don't have to do anything like that. We integrate with systems that are required. For example, let's say in order to get a badge, you need to have certain learning. Right. Well, the system can check that to make sure that you really are available or allowed to have this badge before you even start that approval process and waste that time of that approval process. So again, integrate with things like learning management, safety training, things like that, that somebody may need to have certain access. Integration with over 20, as I said, 20 plus, I don't remember the number because we continue to add them, access control systems, and then different ways to get a badge, different badge types. And then, of course, our system can be deployed on public cloud, private cloud, or on premise. So I've got some questions here that I want to go through, and we'll answer them. Can the user set up policies? Well, the answer to that is yes, right? You've got different users' permissions, right? And based on the permissions, like for example, administrative permission, things like that, you can define policies. Now, not everybody in the company is going to be able to define policies, but certain people with that correct role can define the policies. And they can all be done within Splan. Simple answer, yes. Extended answer, you need to have the permission within Splan. You need to have had that set up within Splan to do that. Which mobile credential providers are supported? Well, we support Blue Diamond, which is Linnell, right? We support HID, and we have customers using that. We support Wavelinks. We support the OpenPath mobile credential. I mean, that's part of their access control system, but I consider it also a mobile credential. So we support that. If others are available, we have an API allows us to connect with those systems as well. So we can build connectors. It's a connector-based framework, and we can build those connectors. Can the system integrate with HR system for data feeds? Yes, we can take a data feed from HR systems like Workday, for example, but also, ticketing systems, service desks, things like that. So different companies use different ways when they bring an employee on. You could do both HR systems like Workday and also ticketing systems as well. Which access control systems are supported? Well, as I said earlier, we support about 20 plus access control systems, all the major ones, like, for example, Lenel, S2, Genetec, AMAG, Avigilon, Brevo, RS2, Open Options, Secure, ProWatch, and others. So again, we've got many different Avigilon, many different Brevo, many different access control systems that we integrate with and that our customers are using. So basically, we have built integrations with access control systems as our customers have requested it. So we're not just out there looking for access control systems to integrate with. A customer comes to us and says, hey, I've got this access control system. As I said earlier, we build a connector in about 2 to 4 weeks, as long as that other system has an API. But we have 20 plus access control systems. Can the user set up roles and privileges? Yes. Splan's a role-based access system, permissions-based. In other words, it is a pretty simple way, easy way to set it up. The administrator who has really for carte blanche, and able to get into everything within the system. So if somebody has an administrator role, they're able to get into that. They can go into a screen that has all of these different activities in it. It's just check marks. Is this role? They want to create a new role. System comes out of the box with a few roles set up: administrator, employee, lobby ambassador. And they have their certain permissions granted to them. But let's say I have a new role I want to create, very easy. So whoever has permission to create roles can go in, create a role, a number of check boxes of all the different things you can do in the system. And they just check off the things that that person can do. And very, very easy and straightforward to do it. How many access levels can be granted? Well, that's unlimited. Somebody can have as many as they need. It's an unlimited number of access levels. And are there different approvals required for different access levels? Yes, there are. And go back to the access levels again for just a minute. I want to add one thing to that. We also have customers with multiple access control systems. So, what you can do is you can grant access levels within different access control systems also, because we can integrate with them. Are there different approvals required for access levels? Yes. What you set up in the system is you've got an access level. For example, a door to a server room. And what you do is you say, this person or this group of people can approve that access. So when somebody, a manager or employee on a job change, requests access to that area, that access level, then notification is going to go to that one person or group of people that can approve that access. And they're going to see a screen and say, okay, this person is requesting this access, and they can include notes, why they need the access and things like that. All of that's captured in the system, by the way. For audit trail, who requested the access, who granted the access, why was the access granted, what was the access level? All of that is recorded in the system in the audit trail files. So you can always go back and do an audit on these things as well, right? And so basically, each access level can require approvals, and it's set up ahead of time, so you don't have to figure out who the person that approves this access. You don't have to remember who you're going to send an email to, a phone call, any of that. It's all configured in the system when you set it up. Do you have kiosks for badge issue? Yes, we have an enterprise kiosk, which actually has the capability to dispense a Prox card if that's what you're using. So basically, the employee can just walk right up to that kiosk, check in, as long as everything is, everything's secured and all up to date. They're allowed to get the access, they're allowed to get the badge. All the workflows have been accomplished. Everything's in place. then that kiosk can dispense the badge. Yes. Is the approval workflow configurable? Yes, the workflow can be set up and policies can determine the steps that are required. So it is configurable. What types of credentials can be issued? Well, basically, Splan works with all different types of credentials, and you can have multiple types of credentials for different people as well. You can have prox cards, you can have mobile credentials, you can have QR codes, you can have fobs. You can really have different kinds of credentials that are going to be issued. And again, like I said, we were talking to our customer yesterday. Each there are some of their employees have two credentials, have one is a fob and one's a prox card. And the reason they have that is if they have a prox card that they use every day, they clip it to their belt, it's very visible, it gets them in and out of rooms. But let's say they're out to dinner and they have an emergency call, they've got to go to the office, they don't want to have to go home first, they have to go to the office, they've got a key fob. So they have multiple credentials for access. Can we implement only the change access? Um, we do recommend a phased approach, and yes, we can implement change access, or we could do a recertification project. Let's say you have a recertification project coming up, and you say, hey, you know what? We got 2,000 badges outstanding, but we only have 500 employees. We need to go out and recertify all these badges. And people do have these types of initiatives. Well, we can do that by through the whole recertification module as well. So really any part of the solution that you want to implement, whether it is job change or whether it is recertification or whether it is new hire, you could do any one of those individually and also add on to it later pretty easy as well, add the new workflows. So those are the questions I have received. I want to take a moment and thank everybody for their time. If you if you want to have a further follow-up demo, we only got the demo a very small part of the product today for you. So if we've generated your interest and you want to see a more full functional demo going through your workflows and things like that, please reach out to us. You can always reach out to sales@splan.com, and that'll go to all the salespeople. And then depending upon your area, the right person will follow up with you. But then here's also a map of the sales team. But thank you very much for your time. We appreciate it. And hopefully we hear from you and we've got your interest. Thank you.